think I'll just get on started. I do love to start on time, and I want to, of course, be acknowledge and appreciate you guys who did show up on time. So let's kick things off for today. So first off, I want to say welcome, 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 everyone who is live, as well as everyone who is here on the recording to the HVAC Google Maps Masterclass. And I'm really excited today because I'll be sharing with you a lot of the tactics that we've been implementing over the past few years for Google My Business, as well as share some new insight into some of the things that are working in 2022. Probably the reason why I got sick is I just came from travel. I was in Miami for an SEO conference and was learning some of what people are doing to rank very quickly on Google My Business nowadays. In particular, there was someone there who he's created over 10,000 Google My Business listings and has been able to rank them, and shared with us some insight into what's really working nowadays. As you guys could probably appreciate, and as you guys could probably know, there's just so much that is changing with Google. They have algorithm updates and changes into what works and what doesn't work. And so if you want to stay on the cutting edge, it does require a lot of testing and a lot of continuing education, which is why, I love putting together these monthly webinars. I know that our Google Maps webinars are one of our more popular ones. There's a lot of people that ask me for the replay and want to get more insight into Google Maps, and rightly so. Google Maps or Google My Business, or also now known as Google Business Profile, this is where a large majority of your phone calls and clicks will come from organically through Google search. There's definitely a lot of other ways. There's Google local service ads, there's Google ads, there's just straight Google organic, but really the map section, it's the tide is turning in that favor in terms of getting more of those phone calls, clicks, and directions. And so today, going to be breaking you down all those latest things that are happening with Google My Business. Okay, and so as we enter into this as well, this is just one piece of the puzzle, as you guys can probably imagine. We have what we call our digital dominance method, and there is a broader roadmap to everything that is going on. And the goal of this roadmap is just to maximize lead flow for calls, leads, and profitability to your HVAC business. But for today, again, I'm going to be talking about a very important piece, which is your Google Maps. So as we enter into today, for me, whenever I go to a conference or I go to an event or an educational seminar, what's important to me is to get the most out of that time that we have together with the presenter. And so, my ask is, please, if you can, turn off your cell phones, turn off social media, because, these next 60 to 90 minutes could mean a meaningful change for your business as we move into the busy season for this year. Getting those rankings on Google Maps, it's something you can set up, autopilot, and you're getting those leads coming in versus having to worry about how things are going. So, if you put whatever you put into this, you'll get out of it. And so I hope that, these next few, an hour or so will be meaningful to you. And really, please give your attention. I think it'll be very meaningful to you. So what will we cover for today? There's 4 major items that we're covering. The first will be the latest updates with the Google Map listing, also now known as the Google Business Profile. Number 2 is the 5 biggest issues that could be preventing you from ranking. Number 3, our proven model for ranking in the 3-pack. And then number 4, how to systemize and automate the heavy lifting, because as you and I both know, there is never enough time in the day. Running the business, research and development, taking care of jobs, spending time with family. We're busy people. And so what are some things that can make our life easier when it comes to this other part of growing the business? And so just to hop into things, who am I and why should you listen to me? If this is the first time that you've met me virtually. So my name is John Victoria. I am the owner of Polianna. I've been running our digital marketing agency since 2016. And we've had experience with HVAC companies, ranking them since 2018. I'm an active member of ACA, the Air Conditioning Contractors of America. I will actually be at the upcoming conference if any of you will be there. And we've worked with HVAC businesses across the US and internationally. Our bread and butter started out with Google Maps as well as Google SEO, but we've expanded over the years, but won't be diving too deep into that. But we do have a depth of experience around SEO and Google Maps. And so for a few of the home service businesses we've worked with, many of these are ranking #1 across their respective service areas. But, we got DM Select Services, Dirty Plumbing, Sugar Bear Plumbing, Equity Plumbing and Drain, Climate King, All-Star Plumbing, Nova Exteriors, Bearded Brothers, for a few of the home service businesses that we've worked together with. And our mission, I made a post about this on my Facebook the other day. Rankings are nice and rankings are important, but really, my goal, just so that we have the end goal in mind, is paving the path for financial freedom for 200 HVAC companies. And the way that we help do that is, of course, in part through our monthly seminars, and helping build strategies that can help get you to financial freedom, because you started your business for a specific reason. It's not necessarily to rank #1, but that's an important piece. But how is this related to financial freedom so that you can spend more time with your families? You can pay your team at the rate that you want and attract the best people and really build the type of legacy in business that you want. And that really is encompassed in financial freedom. So that is my goal. I don't lose sight of that whenever talking about digital marketing. It's all in service of that financial freedom. So just to kick things off, do Google Maps matter? Some people might be curious, like, hey, does Google Maps still matter? Here's a quick screenshot of one of our clients for the keyword HVAC Burke, DM Select Services. They're ranking at the top here. And the stats show that, 44% of clicks and calls are going to this #1 position. And so this here is the Google Maps. You can see at the bottom, you can see there's Yelp. We also have the Google Organic at the bottom, but more and more, just the large majority of the clicks for local searches are coming from this top section right here, the Google Maps listings results. It's an amazing place to be placed at, because it gives you a lot more detail than a lot of the organic listings. You see the business name, obviously. You see the number of reviews that someone has, which helps the consumer decide who to click on or who to go with. And it shows other details about the business, such as how many years have they been in business? What types of things are included in their listing. So air conditioner unit right here. And someone can very quickly click to visit the website, go to the directions. And if they're on their mobile phone, they're able to click to call. So it's a very dynamic, and it's a very powerful place for you to, a very powerful place for you to get this type of positioning. That's just where a lot of the clicks and calls are going. And so, yes, Google Maps does matter. The other thing that I'll share that you might not also realize is that, depending on where you search from, the Google Maps ranking might be different. And so there's tools out there that can show you, where you rank and how you rank. I'm not going to get too deep into that, but Google Maps does matter. And it also, depending on how you've done your SEO, where you're searching from also matters to your placement. And so just to show you some of the number of calls that came from Google Maps for one of the listings. So the one I just showed you, there was 799 Google Maps calls that came from that single listing. And for our partner, our client, we have 4 or 5 different Google My Business listings. And each of those small Google My Business listings are driving a ton of phone calls. And so in total, how many phone calls were coming? This was just like the one. There was 17,597 phone calls that were coming in. And so DM Selects in particular, they are a bigger business. I'd say that when we started with them, they were at $1 million in annual revenue. This year, they cracked 15 million. And so about 40% of their growth came from the internet, from what they were sharing with us. And a lot of that was due in part to their rankings on Google Maps, as well as their organic search. And so when I say like this can be transformational, like I'm not kidding at all. I've seen it with my own eyes from the stuff that we're directly implementing. What I'm sharing with you is what we did. And that's why I'm really excited for what this could mean for each of you. And so, Google Maps does drive calls. Some people do rely on pay-per-click. Pay-per-click, there's the Google ads. There is the, Facebook ads as well for pay-per-click. But there's just something different about Google Maps. It's that piece of real estate on Google. It's meaningful. And so some of the biggest changes that have happened over the previous years, if you haven't been keeping track of this, you might not have noticed this, but some of the biggest changes recently, number one has been the Google Maps listing. It used to be that there were 7 listings. And so it was easier for you to have that page 1 real estate. But Google has made it more competitive because they've shrunk the number, the total 7 to only 3 listings now. Second, Google is also serving paid ads in map results now. So before it was all organic, but now you can pay to play to get into the map results. Number 3, there's another paid type of ad on Google now, and that's Google Home Services, and also known as local service ads. And this is just Google's play at taking a jab at Home Advisor or Angie's. And they are, it's like a pay per lead service that they're doing, and they're getting themselves placed on Google search as well. And so to be eligible for this, if you're not doing it already, there is a verification process for you to get into it, but we're not going to get too deep into it now, but just know that more real estate is being taken up on page 1 of Google. So to look at how it looks like before, the left-hand side, you can see that there's the name of the company. You see their website address, the number of reviews. And on the right-hand side, this is the address, but 7 before. And now this was shrunk. Now we are down to this. So we're down to 3 total listings. And this is what I was talking about. Some of the local service ads. It could be, most likely it already is in your area. I imagine it's in Knoxville. I imagine it's in Charlotte. It's here at the top. So it's going to say the name of the company. You can see the reviews, and then you see the Google guaranteed at the top. And so for to be eligible, it's a very simple verification process. Just got to sign up for it. And what Google will do is that they will do some background checks on all of your team members. And if you pass the background checks, it's very standardized. There's no one's going to be looking very deeply at every single person's, but it's a standardized verification process. You will be able to be eligible for this program, but it's blanketing the top of a few Google searches in select areas. And how does that impact things? This is how it would look like without all of the different things, but now not just the straight organic, we're plugging now, or Google ads at the top. You got Google My Business there as well. You got the local service ads. So really there's a lot of places for a potential consumer to click. But even with that, I would share that organic search results are still getting the highest quality clicks, even with all of these different new places to click on the search engines. But just wanted to overview some of those changes. So if you are curious about Google local service ads, this is where you can go. adwords.google.com/local services/signup. And it'll take you through that process to get synced up with local services. And for this, you do pay per lead. But it is, without having to necessarily do Google Maps and then do Google organic SEO, this is one thing you can do to begin to get leads to your business sooner rather than later. Okay, so owning the search results. We talked about all those different pieces. Imagine, of course, this is going to be constrained by budget, but imagine if you could have placement in all of those. You got the home services placements, the map listings, the third-party listings, organic listings. Really, like if you are to set a target of where you're trying to go, ideally, this is where you could hit because it just makes you the undisputable choice of who a consumer or homeowner would go with. The next thing I wanted to talk about was abusive listings. I'd say particularly people in the SEO space over the past few years are the reason for this. Google Maps listings were driving so much traffic, so much business and phone calls that people began to game the system. And so what did that mean? There were people that were propping up hundreds, thousands of Google My Business listings that weren't actually legitimate listings. And so Google has made it a very focused effort for them to reduce the number of fake Google Maps listings starting in 2015. It's still happening nowadays, and it's even to the extent where it is too much. We have some of our clients where if you even change the phone number, something as simple as changing the phone number, it'll auto suspend their listing. And so Google, in an effort to crack down, has made it so difficult to change some things nowadays. And so we've had a few people come to us and say, John, we need some help. We didn't even do anything really that bad, but they've suspended our listing. But it's in alignment with what I'm sharing here. Google just really trying to crack down on fake listings. But even with that, I will say, or I will share that I have seen, folks who've been able to make it through even with that. But just know it's a lot more difficult to set up fake listings. And so moving on, what are some things that could be hurting you on Google Maps? Because I imagine, if you're watching this webinar, whether you're live on the replay, most likely you already have a Google Maps listing. And the question in your mind is that it's not, maybe you don't already rank. So maybe the question is, why is it that I don't currently show up? Some of the things people shared with me in the past is like, John, I've been in business for 10, 15, 20 years. We do great work for our homeowners and they really love what it is that we do. Why is it that we're not ranking? And why is it that some of these newer guys that are coming to the market, why are they showing up? And why am I nowhere to be found? And the reasons for that, it can be varied. There's so many different reasons why you might rank, but here's some of the major reasons why your rankings could be hurt. Have them listed on the slide. So the first thing is if you want to rank in a city, if you remember earlier, I mentioned how important it is where someone was searching from. If you don't have a physical address in the area that you are looking to target, then it'll be very difficult for you to rank in that area on Google Maps. Google is favoring more and more every day those localized searches. And so if you're in, let's say Knoxville, and you want to rank in Nashville, that geographic distance will make it very difficult for you to show up. And Google Maps may not be the route for you unless somehow you can get a Google listing over there. And so that's one of the first issues, you're needing an actual physical location. Number two, if in the past you've tried to spam Google with fake locations, and you are trying to rank a Google My Business in the same account as the other locations that you've spammed Google, it's going to be very difficult for you to rank because Google already has their target on your back. They're saying, okay, you've done some bad things in the past. You probably will do some bad things again, and we won't let you rank. So that's the second thing. The third thing, and this is an easy fix, but a lot of business owners miss this, is that they have inconsistent name, address, and phone number on their listings. So when I say name, I'm saying the business name, and the address obviously is where they're located, and the phone number is obviously their phone number. But what happens is that someone will have one set of information on their Google My Business profile. They will have a slightly different variation on their website, and then another slightly different variation on their Yelp profile. And these variations can be very small, like street spelled out, S-T-R-E-E-T, will be different than S-T period. It sounds like, oh, wow, well, it's the same thing. But to Google, just that slight difference can cause fluctuations in your rankings. Avenue, right? Avenue, is different than Ave, right? So it really has to be the same across each of your across the web, because for Google is entity based, and they're thinking about you as an entity. So if there's conflicting entities with different information, it confuses them, and they have a less likelihood of wanting to increase your rankings. So that's one easy fix that could fix up, that would improve your rankings. Number 4, spamming your city and company name or categories. And what this means is that some people, when they have their Google My Business listing, they'll have their company name, and then they might add some keywords into it. So it might be, let's say it was Joe's HVAC company, and then it says air conditioning contractor, but air conditioning contractor is not a part of their legal name. They're spamming it with different keywords. And so this used to work really well in the past, having those keywords in there. But again, like I said, Google's been cracking down. So because they've been cracking down, any of those, trying to game the system, it's not going to work, and it'll most likely get you dinged on your rankings. And then lastly, having enough reviews across the web. This is Google is favoring reviews more and more nowadays, because people can fake them, but they're finding ways to filter out fake reviews. But having real reviews from real customers with your keywords in them, that is one of the biggest signals to increase your rankings on maps, because many times they can tie a review or a reviewer to an actual person and legitimize who that is. And that sort of review will give credibility to you on maps, because it's that third-party validation. So I'm just looking across these, if you could just fix up your, your name, address, and phone number, if you could get more and more reviews, and as long as you're not doing any tricky things with spam, that should lift up your rankings in the next month or so. If you just start getting reviews and fixing up your names. And so proven formula for getting ranked in the 3-pack. So there's a few pieces that goes into getting ranked in the 3-pack. The first one, which we've been talking about already, has been your Google My Business profile. And so what you got to do with that is, fill it out with all the correct information, add your hours, add your services, add your description, make sure it has keywords, and that's going to be your central hub. The second piece, which we also talked about, is getting more reviews from customers. If I know it's gonna be tough to influence this, but if you can get your customers to say the exact service that they use and have keywords, like that'll be a huge booster to your rankings. Number 3, another thing that helps is actually with your own website. If you have a well-optimized website for your business, that'll also help with Google's Google Maps rankings. And then number 4, this interweb right here, this is meant to show you all of the different places your website could be listed on the internet. These are like business directories, where you can just have your business information. So, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Yellow Pages, Local Easy, Pave, Kudzu, Bing. All of these places are places you could list your website, and Google looks at these sites to, again, verify your information. And so if you can just get these major pieces covered, you're going to have a 80-20 solution for getting yourself ranked in the 3-pack. And so diving deeper into each of these. So for claiming and optimizing your Google My Business listing. So here's a few of the steps. So the first step, this is, you want to make sure you have a login for your Google My Business account. Sometimes what we've seen is that Google actually creates these profiles for you, and you didn't even create it for yourself. And so, it's been created. And so if one already exists, what you can do is you can claim this business, and you'll just have to provide some sort of verification to Google to verify that that is your business. So once you're in, now you can follow through with the next steps. Number 2, after you finally logged into your Google My Business account, what you'll want to do is you want to have your company name be your company name. It sounds really obvious, but with all the SEOs out there, we're trying to game the system. They do company name plus some other mumbo jumbo. But you want it to be your company name, because if Google spot checks you and they say, send me documentation that this is your actual name, you need to be able to have that documentation. It could be a DBA that you send them over. It could be a business license. It could be your utilities. But if you get spot checked, you want to have these documents with you. Number 3, you want to add your website address. So, if you don't have a website already, highly recommend getting a website set up. We're going to have another webinar on that in the future on how to best set up your website. But if you already have one, it's important to have that website address in your Google My Business listing. Number 4, when it comes to the phone number, use a local phone number with the local extension. So like in Virginia, the common extensions we have for phone numbers are 703 and 571. Depending on your location, it's going to be a different number, but just don't use an 800 number. Google is taking into account all these pieces of information, and the more local pieces of information you can provide them, the better. Number 5, use a local address. Before you could do a PO box in UPS stores. People will get, mail sent over to these types of offices. It used to work, doesn't work anymore. So really you want to use a local address if possible. And then lastly, you want to list your hours of operation and all of the services that you offer. And the trick to this, specifically for the services, is you really want to list all of them out, and you want to fill out like the description for each of those services. Because sometimes what I'll see is, let's say someone just put in, AC installs, duct work, just having those individual things can be great. But if you can build it out with keywords, that will be more meaningful to your rankings on Google.
I had a question.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because I just was thinking about doing another office in the same city, which probably will have a box number. Just because we're in an area where it's very industrialized, there's not a lot of business that we want to contact there. So how does that work? And will that be a problem if we add another location, which is really just a location? So that we rank.
Is it a physical location that you would have an office, or is it like just a mailbox?
It's a physical location where they receive mail.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, it's not just a PO box kind of thing, which our address is a PO box. It has been for 30 years. But I think the physical address is what we have listed on Google. So I'm just trying to get some input, because I just went ahead and rented space so that we could rank a little bit better for being nearer by a more residential area.
I see. Yeah. So two pieces of advice. So the first piece of advice would be try to go through the verification process with this new address, because Google will be able to tell you, whether or not, there will be an issue. So what I would do is, sign up for Google My Business. You would add the address in there and just see what Google says. If they don't really give you.
I already have a listing. So would I just put this as an additional location?
Yes, it would be a separate listing. Sorry. So you have your old listing, and then with this new address, you'd have a second listing now.
Okay. So I should set up a whole new account. Yes,
I would set up a completely brand new account for that listing, because because now you have 2 listings, and these each separately can rank, and that's if you can get that second one, that'll be absolutely amazing. A lot of calls will come from that Google My Business listing.
Okay, and what about like our ratings and reviews and everything? That would not transfer, right? Because it's separate.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. It wouldn't transfer. You would have to get new reviews, and you have to set up everything new on this new profile instead.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more work, especially if you put a lot of time and effort into the first listing. But
Oh, yeah.
the great thing is that it will rank once you begin to add in all those details and reviews. And so now, maybe your first listing might not show up for a person, but because this other location is existing, that'll now show up. And so it'll be good for you in the long term in terms of location-based searches.
Okay, but they would not disallow that because it's just a box, really?
It it'll all depend on what happens when you try to sign up.
Okay.
So, yeah, what I also share with you is so sometimes when Google does verifications, what they'll do to make sure it's legit is they'll ask you to, let's say, like, take a video of the place that your office. And
Mhm.
so, the reason why is because they want to make sure that's actually like a place. And so if you can, take a video and show, oh, this is a legit place, then it can go through. Um,
Mhm.
but also, again, like, first, I just recommend that you would try it. Sometimes it will go through, and if it goes through, that'll be great. But if it doesn't, then that's when we have to diagnose more things. But
Mhm.
the other thing I'll say prior to starting the listing and requesting the postcard is you want to add as much information into that new listing before you get the postcard sent out to you. If you remember the process, it's like, give me the address, give me some of the basic info, and then it says, like, do you want to verify now? What I would recommend you do is you say verify later. And then what you can do is you can now go into the Google My Business profile and you can add in all of the business details. So you can add in the hours, you can add in the description, you can add in the services, you can add in photos, and you want to add as much as you can into there before you actually send the postcard. This will give you the highest likelihood chance that it'll go through. If you just send it, then it might end up with this and get approved. But if you can just fill that out as much as possible before you send the postcard, that'll increase the likelihood to a higher degree for you. So yeah, I definitely recommend that because it would be so valuable to have that second listing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so move on to the next section. The next section, this is claiming and optimizing your Google My Business listing. And so just to add on to the first part, this is we're looking at here is like add as many photos as you can. And so this is to your point as well, Diane. If you can add in pictures of you, the owner, pictures of your staff, pictures of the office, pictures of the truck, equipment logo, coupons, pictures of your work, anything that you could add in there, that those photos will make a meaningful difference, not only to your rankings, but also your likelihood of getting verified.
I'm
The
sorry,
other,
one more question. Would I put
no
in the
problem.
same company name exactly for a different location? I feel like I should, but I don't know if that would work if I want to claim it.
Yeah, ideally it would be a different name, and potentially the way that you could skirt around it is you could probably do a DBA. So for example, like so DM Select Services, they have different Google My Businesses across different locations. So one of them could be named, like, let's say it was in Arlington, DM Select Services of Arlington, and there's another one, DM Select Services of Alexandria. And so we might have to talk offline about this, but you'd have to find a way where the name was slightly different for this new location. Because like I mentioned earlier, one of the factors that helps you rank on Google is a consistent NAP, name, address, and phone number. But if you have two of the same names and then you have conflicting phone numbers and addresses, it's going to confuse Google and it might harm your other rankings for your first listing. So logistically, it would most likely mean that you have to create a DBA of some sort just for this listing so that there is some uniqueness on Google and your entities online. And a DBA might be like maybe $50, $100 a year. but it'll be worth it for having the right types of rankings for your business. Does that help, Diane, for that one?
Yeah, that helps, because that probably would have been a big mistake.
Yeah, glad that could help. Yeah, awesome. So moving back to the photos. So the other thing that I would mention with the photos is that when you take photos with your phone, I don't know if you knew this, but there are the latitude and longitude, the geo coordinates are added to the photos. And Google does take a look at these geo coordinates to help to figure out, like, are these photos legit? And if they came from the location, they'll give you bonus points for having them taken in a specific location, especially if that's the location of the business. So in addition to taking pictures of all these places, if you can, take photos with something that adds the geo coordinates, and, something as simple as your iPhone would do that, that'll also help with your rankings. Yeah. So moving on. So this is claiming we already talked about the photos and the importance of that.
Well, I was going to ask, does that, my guys take photos all over the city. So are they imprinted if I have them on my computer?
Yes. If they took it with their phone, usually it'll have the coordinates already taken. So yeah, if they send it to you and you upload those photos, those should be good to go. Because those are legit. You took them with an actual device. I think those should be fine. Those photos.
Okay, so that transfers right onto the Google My Business page after I download them onto my computer?
Yes, that should download and upload the coordinates with no issue.
Okay.
Yeah, unless somehow you're doing something that strips them of it. It doesn't sound like you're doing anything different, so I think you should be completely fine with the way you're.
Well, it does go through software that I don't know if there's anything that's done to them, but.
Yeah.
And a regular Android wouldn't do that. It would have to be an iPhone.
No, Android is fine too. Android also stores the coordinates. Yeah, if you are worried, what we can do after the session too is, if you want to send me over a few of the photos, I can look to see if the coordinates are there or not. And happy to check to verify.
Thank you.
No problem. Alrighty. So next, now what we're looking at on our screen is claiming. So it's just this is in addition to what we were talking about earlier, but this is something that I want to point out if you weren't already aware. But there is an Insights tab in Google My Business that shows you a lot of useful information for your business. It shows you how many times you get impressions for search and on maps. It also shows you how many people will visit your website, request directions, or call you, all through this free Google My Business listing. The crazy thing is that I'd seen some digital marketers in the past, and they were legitimately charging for this service, even though Google provides it absolutely for free. And so I just want to make sure to highlight it that, you do have this Insights panel. This is not something additional you have to pay for. This is just what comes free with the dashboard. And you can find a lot of useful things here for you. So just want to point that out. All right, so some other things that can help with Google My Business, some best practices is, number one, updating your photos and adding more on a consistent basis. That engagement on your Google My Business profile is a signal to Google that you are active and will help with your rankings. Number two, there's something on Google My Business called Google Posts, and it's kind of like Google's Google My Business's version of social media. It's you're able to like post different things, and it stays up for a certain period of time. And you can add things like, hey, we currently have a heating special that's running, or hey, we currently are doing free inspections, or whatever you want to add there, or hey, we have a new team member. And these are small things just to keep have something up there. But it is something that people do see. It does help your rankings, and also it helps with community engagement, because people will see this if they do search for your business. And so that's another thing. Third is respond to reviews. If you get a review from a customer, whether it is happy or whether it is angry, you want to respond to them. For the good ones, you want to thank them. And when it comes to what to say in the review, I'll just make sure to mention your keywords that you want to rank for in those reviews. That'll help you boost your rankings. When it comes to negative reviews, the reason why I say it's important to respond to these is that future customers are going to be looking to see how you respond to bad situations, like how there's they would think like, oh, does the business own up to it? Did they take responsibility? Do they help out in a certain way, or do they seem helpful? I've seen some cases where the business just bashes the customer who leaves them a bad review, and it just doesn't speak well on the business themselves. And so, regardless, positive or negative, I would respond to it, and let even the bad moments be a time to show your professionalism and everything from that to make things better. And then number 4, answer questions that get posted. There's also another feature on Google where, people can ask questions. So if people do post those, make sure to answer it. And again, same with reviews. You want to make sure that in your answers, you are adding in keywords. It's really important. It's just really, really important. As many times you get keywords on your Google My Business, the better. All right. So the second piece, which we talked about earlier, this was the citations and the consistencies with NAP. You want to have a lot of them. You want to have citations all across the web. You want to make sure that you have consistent NAP. And when I say NAP, I don't mean take a siesta in the middle of the day. NAP meaning name, address, and phone number. And we were talked about earlier. And then third, avoiding that duplicate and incorrect business information. If you have similar names, if you have similar addresses, it just confuses Google. And you don't want to do that because that'll be negative for your rankings. This next part, this is the 80-20. So one thing you might not realize is that Google does take a look at all those websites, but there are aggregators that are out there online that basically gather all the information. And also if you feed these aggregators your information, they will pass it out to their network. And so right here, I have 4 listed. I have Factual, I have Axiom, I have Infogroup, and Newstar. And these 4, these will distribute out to 300 online search sites. And so instead of having to do every single little site, what if you could just focus on the aggregators and they will distribute it out to a broader network. And so for some tools, aside from the aggregators, here's some tools that you could use that could get your business information consistent across the web. There is Bright Local, there is Yext, there's Moz Local, there's White Spark, there's Advice Local. All of these are platforms that you could visit, and they would be able to help you with getting your NAP consistency. They can detect issues, they spot if it goes different, and they make sure that it stays consistent. And yeah, as we're moving on to the next section, if you would like a free citation consistency and accuracy check, always happy to do that. Just feel free to email me and we can double check on that for you and provide a report. And what it'll look like is something like this. It can tell you, okay, how many of your listings are accurate or inaccurate? What is the percentage of the business name, the address, and a phone number? And it can show you a number of those inaccurate listings to get fixed up. Okay, so for some best practices, just with the citations, the first one, and this is one that I think you've already done, Diane, but manually claim and optimize the Google My Business following the tips that we shared earlier. Number 2, you can use a tool like Yext for direct API to 50 of the top citation listings. Like I talked about, we don't have all the time in the world. So if you can use a tool that can connect to all of the different websites, that's also helpful. Number 3, get in touch with those major data aggregators. Another way to simplify the process. And then number 4, you can use a tool like Bright Local Citation Finder or White Spark. And this is a way for you to find other niche specific opportunities for your directories. And so with that, I also did do some research on what are the top HVAC citations. So if you want to grab this, there's a few. Like we got Akka there, that does require a membership, but that'd be a good citation. You have airconditioningprofessionals.com, CI HVAC, directory.ac, all examples of great places where, you could get listed and have that niche specific citation. All right, so the third piece as part of the diagram was having the reviews. So, with reviews, they're one of the most important credibility signals to Google, because on Google's end, if someone has a Google profile, they can see if they're actually legitimate. They can see if they are doing searches, if they're traveling, if they're doing things. And Google can really judge like, hey, this is a legit person or this is not. And if a legit person who is actually an engaged Google user is leaving a review for you, Google has a certain degree of, they have a better sense that the review that this person is leaving is stronger than one that is not. And so Google really does favor, actual people leaving actual reviews on your Google My Business profile. And if they could have keywords in that review, that's gonna be such a powerful instrument to increasing your rankings. And so, strategies for driving consistent reviews. I'm gonna go through all of these, but the thing that I'll just preface this with is that it's a cultural thing. If it's within the culture of your business to ask for a review at every stage of the process, you're going to get reviews. But if it's seen as just a necessary evil that sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, then then it's going to show that you're not going to have the types of reviews that you're looking for. So it always starts from the top. And then what we're going to see here is more of the tactical implementation of that. So some of the strategies for driving consistent reviews. The first one is requesting a review after every service call. And what this could look like is, I've seen this from a few people, but what you can do is you can print out a QR code, and this QR code can link to your Google My Business profile reviews. And what you can do is if your team has devices, what you can do is you can just put it on the back of their devices, and it's as simple as like after a service call, you could say, hey, if you're happy with the service today, would you want to leave us a review? Just scan this QR code at the back of my phone. That's an easy way that you can very easily request a review with a physical component. The other way is that you can also set up automation. So with automation, you can, if you have a database, maybe you're using Service Titan, or maybe you're using House Call Pro. If you have this list of customers, what you can do is you can send an automatic email after a service call, and then that can also ask them to leave a review. Number two, leave a printed review card. So, what you can do as well is you can print out 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 cards, and you can do the QR code strategy that I mentioned earlier. Or you can also leave a URL that will take someone directly to a place where they can leave a review. Number three, train your technicians to plant the seed and deliver a world-class experience. And what I mean by plant the seed is, in the beginning, as soon as they arrive for the service call, one thing that you can share with your technicians to do is just speak with the homeowner and just ask them, hey, if we were able to deliver or exceed your expectations today, at the end of it, would you be willing to leave us a review? And and said, yeah, if you're going to do a great job, I'd be happy to leave a review. And so that's just planting the seed, just like mentioning it to the homeowner in the beginning. If we do a great job, would love for you to leave a review at the end. And of course, after they deliver a great experience at the end, ask them again, hey, I know in the beginning we talked about, if you had a great experience, if you would leave us a review, how did you feel about today? Oh, I love today. Today was amazing. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Well, our business, the way that we grow is by, is through reviews and sharing your experience with others. Would you be willing to, very quickly share, a quick written thing about your experience today? Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. Okay, great. I have this QR code right here. If you could scan it, that'd be amazing. Yeah, that would actually mean the world to me if you could do that. Okay, great. Yeah, I'll type in a review real quick. So something as simple as that, just seeding it in the beginning and then following up after is a great way to just begin to capture more of those reviews. Number 4, another thing that can be done if that's not up to your speed is that you can also make a call after to walk them through the review process. So, maybe you have someone on your admin team. They call up the homeowner and say, hey, we had Joe come over to your house earlier today or last week. Just wanted to hear how your experience was. Oh, I thought it was great. We have a new unit, and the kids are loving it. Everything's feeling great. Before the house was just temperature was all wacky. Okay, great. So now if you could visit this website, we'd love to share your experience with other people. Visit this website. So just another strategy, just walking people through. And then lastly, building reviews and recognition into your company culture. What this could look like is maybe you could create incentives for your team members. Let's say at the end of the month, the person who got the most amount of reviews would get some sort of reward or some sort of perk or benefit. It could be as simple as a gift card if that's what motivates your team. Maybe it could be even a day off, or maybe it could be some other type of benefit or thing that you could think of. But if you have it baked into your culture to capture these reviews, you're going to get a lot of reviews. If it's a necessary evil that you just got to do and no one's really feeling it, then okay, the results will show. But yeah, that's just on leaving reviews.
I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I do most of these things already, but I think one of the big pieces that's missing is the keywords, and I don't really understand exactly about the QR code and how that works.
Okay, yeah. So for so I guess for the first part of the question, this is like how to get keywords in the review.
Mm-hmm. And what are these keywords? Are they just services that you do so that people will find you when they're looking for that service? Or are they keywords that have been put into some kind of setup by the web page people? And I'm not very good at this kind of thing. I'm kind of aged out for being really up on this stuff. So
no, that's a really great question. And so for the keywords, yeah, it'll just be your services that you would want to be found for. So
okay.
If you wanted to do like an example of a keyword would be air conditioning, or it could be heater, or it could be installation, could be service call. So because to kind of give you a side-by-side comparison, sometimes a customer will leave a review and they'll say, loved the company, great job, you should work with them. And that review has no keywords in it. It's just very generic, like anyone could have written that. The second type of review, which would be more ideal, is a customer saying something like, we had Jose come in and our air conditioning unit was broken. He gave us a diagnosis and was able to get our AC unit fixed in a few hours. And so in that case, Google will spot, oh, wow, there's a bunch of keywords in this. This type of review will give them more credit so that they rank higher on Google Maps. And so when a person is asking for a review, they can also, kind of prompt the customer to say like some of those things, like, could you please, when you're leaving the review, could you please mention, what we came in for, and what the change has been since we came in. Because if you have those keywords, it's really going to make a big difference with your rankings versus one with none at all.
Okay, because that really, I had no idea that was supposed to be part of those reviews. And like we've been doing the cards and the recognition in the company. We've been doing a contest for years.
Love that.
To help the guys make sure they're on point with their service. So just not having that information about keywords is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one change will make a whole world's difference to your rankings.
And what about the company name? Is that something you want to reiterate in the response or anything?
Yeah, if you get the as many key, so if you get the company name, if you could get the details of what happened, the specific service, from an SEO standpoint, that's helpful, but also from a consumer standpoint, that's helpful, because they're able to connect up the dots a lot better. So yeah, I'd say company name as well. That'd be really, really good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Awesome. So yeah, let's move on to the next
I'm sorry.
section.
The other thing was that QR code. What is that?
Oh yeah. Oh, so have you seen it in like restaurants nowadays where it's like a thing that people have to scan, and then when they scan it, it like takes them to like a website. I don't know if you've seen that. I know it's more prevalent nowadays with pandemic and the closures, but you'll go
Yeah.
into a restaurant and then there's like that QR code. It's like black and white sort of thing that you scan.
So like print one out for them to put on the back of their phone?
Yeah, that's just one idea. So if you don't want to have to use the actual cards, you can set it up where someone can scan it and it'll automatically take them to the Google listing to leave a review. So it's just an easier way to get to the Google reviewing part.
Get a QR code for one of those printed cards.
Yeah, that could be another way just to make it simpler, since a lot more people are familiar with using it nowadays.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Awesome. So next, so lots of your reviews. Here's some of the review tools that you can do for automation. You got Nearby Now, you got Review Buzz, Bird Eye, Service Titan, Customer Lobby. Lots of great opportunities to get these reviews and automate them. And then the fourth piece is the on-page optimization. I mentioned this earlier that if you don't have a website, you really should have a website, and this website impacts your Google rankings as well. Because if you remember, on your Google My Business listing, you can add a URL, and if you go from the URL to your website, that optimization will also help. It helps both ways. And so when it comes to the on-page optimization, you want to have consistent NAP. Like I mentioned earlier, it's the name, address, and phone number. And you also want to have keywords included in the different parts of the page. So the headers, the content, and the titles, all of that does impact your rankings. And so I would not neglect your actual website when it comes to helping your Google Maps rankings. So that's it. So that's the four pieces. There is the citations, the Google My Business, the on-page SEO, as well as the reviews. There's, of course, lots of other things that you could possibly do. I won't have time to go into all of those today, but for the 80-20 solution, if you could just get these things, you're going to see measurable differences in your rankings. All right, so moving into the next section, I wanted to talk about what else is different in 2022 when it comes to your rankings. So off-page SEO, we've already talked about a few of these, getting the rankings, the citations, the reviews. There's two other pieces which we haven't talked about yet, which is building authoritative links back to your website from other websites, as well as strategic content syndication. So this one right here, authoritative links, all this means is getting references from other websites online that are relevant to your services. So I talked earlier about getting a link from Akka. So if you got a link from Akka because you're listed in their directory, that would be an example of a link from another website coming to yours of someone who is relevant, and that would boost your rankings. Strategic content syndication, this just means, let's say you do make a post on your website, making sure that it gets distributed to other places on the internet, so you get more credit from Google for that distribution. And so before, all you need to do was create a simple blog post on your website, and Google would see it and they'd say, oh, all these new keywords, all these things that they should rank for. Oh, that I see they're answering frequently asked questions. And that's that's great and it's still beneficial, but we can do one better than that. We can use it to amplify our presence a lot more than just having that website. Just having that blog. And so what I wanted to introduce to you is a new concept. It's a new authority signal generation approach. It's, a lot of buzzwords in there, but I'll break it down. But I just want to introduce it to you to open yourself up to what other things can we do to really get the most out of our rankings online. And so one of the new things that Google has come out with, and this isn't an attempt to stop a lot of the spammers that are out there, is to build something called EAT, like eating food, but it's an acronym, EAT. And so to achieve that superior search visibility, you need to meet some of these new criteria. And so EAT stands for, E is expertise. So, having quality, structured, and media-rich content. A, authority. So, who is referencing you and how authoritative are you as a business, as a website? Are you reputable? And then T has to do with trust. Lots of SEO lingo here, but passing trust and page rank with link signals, implied trust. And all this means is like, what types of websites are you associated with? If they're trusted, then most likely you are trusted. With people, the easy way to understand this is that, they say, you are the sum of your 5 closest friends. And there's a similar concept with Google. It's like whoever you associate with, that's kind of like they'll pass on that trust to you as well. And so with the new SEO formula, aside from EAT, there's a lot of different pieces that go into it. There's lots of changes, and this is that extra 20% that I was talking about earlier. You can do the map stuff we talked about earlier. That's the 80%. But if you really want to get that additional 20%, there's a lot that goes into it. There's like the quality of the stuff that you put out there. It's the research that has gone into competitor research and how does that match up with what you're doing. There's the crawl, like what is, there's something called a crawl budget, which is like how much that Google goes into your website. That plays an important factor for SEO. The keywords that you use, the freshness. I mean, how often do you post? Multimedia, there's video, there's photo, answers. This is, if there's like questions that you answer on your website or on your Google My Business listing, and a whole lot more. I don't want to dive into this because we're eking out that additional part for local SEO, but just know that there is a lot of other factors that, especially if you're in a competitive market, this could be something that you'd want to look deeper into, especially if you're not getting the types of results you're looking for. Lots of more of the specific things that you can target. And on the right-hand side, just to point this out, for SEO, there's also toxins, things that will negatively impact what you're doing. Stuffing is keyword stuffing. So if you add too many keywords in, I know I mentioned adding keywords in was important, but only to a certain amount. If you have too much of it, Google will say, oh, they're just trying to game the system. So these are things that'll harm you. And then emerging fields. So with Google, it's continuously evolving. We now have voice search, which is playing a huge role, right? I have an Alexa, and whenever I can ask it any question, and it'll give me a particular answer. So voice is an emerging field. Local is continuing to emerge. Depending on where you search from, you're going to get different search results than someone who is in another place. So these are all emerging fields that, not all of these will be relevant to you specifically, but it's just good to know on the periphery, like, hey, these are out there, and maybe at some point it will be relevant. And at that point, maybe now we want to dive deeper into it. And so some other things, just to break down some of these new factors. Page quality rating factors. This is what you can do on your website that'll also impact your rankings. So each of the pieces of this, the first is going to be, the purpose of the page. To determine the quality, you got to know, like, why is someone on this page? Are they there to, find out more information? Are they there to answer a question? Are they there to hire someone? The purpose of the page and like the intent of someone coming to the page is important to think about, because if someone is looking for information and then you don't provide the information and you just are doing things to sell them, then there's going to be a dissonance there. So one thing to think about. Number two, expertise or authoritativeness, trustworthiness. That was the EAT stuff we talked about earlier. Another quality characteristic to think about. Number three, the main content quality and the amount. And all this means is like how many words are on the page and how well written was it? Is it actually answering people's questions, or is it just like, hey, we just added a bunch of stuff to this page? So, making sure that the content that you're creating, it does answer, those questions that someone has, like that'll be important as you're moving through this. Number four, website information about who is responsible for the main content. If you remember earlier, we talked about EAT, so expertise and authoritativeness. Google wants to tie who created what content to so that they can figure out, like, is this something that we can trust? There's a lot of, you've probably seen in the news, like there's all these sites that are out there and they're just creating like fake news, fake content. It's a legitimate thing. Like I've seen it with my own eyes. There's just people spinning fake content out there, and Google, what they're trying to do is they're trying to cut down on it. So if you can tie in who wrote what content, it's also going to be something that improves the page quality. And lastly, a website reputation about who is responsible for the main content. If we know who it is and they're tied to other entities, maybe they're tied to their LinkedIn, their Facebook, maybe they're tied to this association, that could help with determining the veracity of that content. For more, since we are talking more local business stuff, some other special local SEO ranking factors to consider. It'll be PRP, proximity, relevance, and prominence. So the first one is, how close is the place of business for the person searching? Depending on how close they are, that's going to impact whether you show up for them or not. And, I've been doing a few tests with a few new tools, and literally same search term. But if you do it from different locations, you're going to have different rankings. So proximity does play a role. And so if you could add in zip codes and geo coordinates in your content, that's going to be helpful. So geo coordinates, like the photos, like that's going to help with your rankings. R, relevance. How relevant is a search term for the business? So, what I say here, optimize content and on-page signals. What that means is, like, if you have a page on a city, if you have an embedded map on that page, that is an example of a signal that is going to give relevance. If you link to your Google My Business from your website page, that's also going to be helpful. But just some other things to consider with local factors. Using business categories in the content and section headings, niche citations, which we talked about earlier, review velocity. All this means is like how frequently you get reviews. All of these will help with the relevance. And then lastly is prominence. What is the authority of the local business? You got your EAT profile, and that's, can be established with your Google My Business profile, brand mentions by other websites, link signals, like how many people are referencing you, the number of reviews you have versus your competition, and also using syndication, meaning getting that, let's say you create a blog and it gets syndicated, gets pushed out to all these other websites, and this will help improve your prominence and your reach online. And those are just some of the factors when it comes to local SEO specifically, not just generic SEO, because there is a difference between the two. And so combining this all into one page, we got the on page, we got the Google My Business, the ongoing content and signals leveraged. On page, we already talked about that, having pages for each service in each of the main cities, having your metadata, all the titles, H1s, URLs, images, all of those added in, and having unique content for all the pages. That's considered in the on page. For Google My Business, this is what we talked about for a majority of today, claiming, adding the X, adding some major data aggregators, driving those online reviews, adding new citations on an ongoing basis will help with your Google Maps rankings and also your SEO rankings. ongoing content. This is, creating stuff online and publishing and syndicating out to a broader audience. And then lastly, signals leverage. So eat, talked about earlier, like eating, expertise, authority, and trust, getting those links from other people, other websites, embedding a map on the website, and then getting fresh content on the sites that are linking to you. So I think we're closing out today's session. I think we're nearing the 90-minute mark. But if you do want to get some freebies, very happy to do an in-depth analysis of your specific business. What we usually do is we just analyze your online visibility. We pull out custom keyword lists, just a ranking report to see where you currently rank, an analysis of your online directory listings and consistency, analysis of online reviews and reputation, social presence, and website conversion. And that's just something that we always do complimentary. Like I mentioned at the start, my mission is to help create more financially free HVAC business owners. And so this is, one piece of what I can do for the HVAC community. And so this is what we like to do in addition to these seminars. So yeah, that's about it. Our mission is paving the path for financial freedom for 200 HVAC companies. Feel free to book a strategy session, but also I'll use this time to open up for any last questions. I know that our Zoom issue earlier kicked off a few of our participants and they weren't able to get back in. But yeah, any last questions for today, and happy to answer them. And I'll give it a few minutes or a minute or so. If not, we'll close out for the day.
Well, I did want to ask, I got one of these emails, even though I don't do HVAC, I do only plumbing and drain cleaning. Mm-hmm. And so do you have, I figured all of the information you're giving would be pertinent anyway, except for the associations that you've got listed. So I was wondering if there was any other or reservations about helping me with just plumbing.
Yeah, we've worked with several plumbing companies in the past, and what we could do is it would have to be more of a custom analysis, but since you showed up to the webinar, I'm happy to do an analysis for you and also help you strategize on what you can do specifically for plumbing. So that should be no problem at all. We can definitely set up some time. Yeah.
All right, because it seems like there's a lot of facets that I just am not familiar with. And I already have an SEO company, but I don't feel like we're getting anywhere. And that's been the case with numerous other SEO companies over the years. Like I said, we've been in business for 30 years, and I've yet to find a really good company that gets us anywhere near third. So, any kind of input would probably be helpful.
Yeah, very happy. Maybe we can set up some time next week. What I can do prior to then is I can take a look at, what's been done so far. And then maybe we can just, go back and forth and, figure out like what could be a good game plan for you. And I completely resonate with what you said. A lot of the companies we work with, they've worked with a company in the past, and as business owners, like it's, you just don't know. It's just not something that you can keep on top of all the time. And so there's a lot of question marks on what to look for, or if things are going right. And so, yeah, very happy to take a look into things. If anything, just happy to help educate. That's kind of like my goal, just to help, create, I say here, financial freedom for HVAC companies, but really, within my own company and with the people that we work with, really, I just want to help people live the lives that they want. And marketing is just responsible for helping drive that business for them. So yeah, very happy to help. And yeah, we can definitely set up some time, sometime next week. What's your email? I'll send you an email after just to coordinate.
Okay. DASSELL at Rapid, RAPID, Rooter, ROOTERNC as in North Carolina.com.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. So I'll send over an email after to coordinate. But yeah, I guess just to close things off, I just want to say thanks for staying in. I know we had that little kink in the middle of the presentation that kicked off some of our friends, but yeah, I'll have the replay as well in case you want to review it. And we do webinars every single month, just to help educate. I'm also coming out with my book. My book on digital marketing is coming out in the next month or so. So happy to share that. But my goal again is just education and helping others. So yeah, if there's anything else that we can do for you, just let us know. And yeah, really appreciate you for being on, Diane.
Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of problems just posting on Google My Business. I'll work up a whole post and then find that I've made some grievous error and they will not post it. And they don't tell you why. They just give you guidelines that you think that you've already taken care of, but they're still not posted it. And then
Sounds
sometimes
like
they won't post it and then you find it on there later. Like, what?
That's Google for you. It's just like just very confusing. Very confusing. Oh man, yeah, it's funny. It's funny, but also like frustrating. So I completely resonate with you on that one. Just but don't worry, we'll get it solved. It's no problem. We'll figure it out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, great. I'll reach out after, Diane. I appreciate you. And yeah, if you need anything else in the meantime, just yeah, we'll correspond via email.
All right, great. Have a good day.
You too. Take care.